It is a great privilege and honor to welcome back to the show Congresswoman Debbie Lesko, representing Arizona's 8th Congressional District. Many of you know her as Congresswoman Lesko. I know her as a force of nature, doing so many great things from, really women's rights to the border, all the important stuff. Debbie, welcome back to the show. How you been?
I've been great, Seth. How have you been?
Oh, we've been, we're fighting every day, aren't we? We're fighting every day.
We are. It's a constant fight. But you know what? I have a smile on my face because Republicans are back in the majority in the U.S. House.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah, I know, right? And interestingly enough, just to show the force of common sense, I was reflecting with the audience, the win from last year's election wasn't perhaps as big as many of us would like, and Republicans haven't been in the majority for much more than about 3 months. But look at what a difference that thinner win and just 3 months has made. It's been a big difference, hasn't it? You feel it, obviously, from where you sit. I got to tell you, I think the rest of us are feeling it, too.
It's a huge difference. I mean, one of the first bills that we passed out of the U.S. House of Representatives was defunding the 87,000 IRS agents that Biden and the Democrats funded. And then on the pro-life issue, we passed legislation that would require medical care for babies born alive after a failed abortion. And not only one Democrat voted with all the Republicans for it. Isn't that sad? That's just sad.
Joe Biden likes to talk about the Republican Party not being your fathers or grandfathers. The Democratic Party ain't his old Democratic Party either, even the one he represented in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. But also, too, on things we're learning and being vindicated upon with regard to the kinds of things we were trying to get into the mainstream about COVID, about the efficacy of certain of the mitigation efforts, the damage of the mitigation efforts, the origins of COVID, the damage of that the CDC wrought on America, the scandals that were underlying the Biden family. I mean, all this stuff is coming out by dint of our newly minted majority. I mean, it feels like there's an honesty in the air. The democracy is no longer dying in darkness.
Yes, I'm on that select subcommittee to investigate COVID, and I tell you, the lies just keep coming from some of these agency heads. You have one person telling you one thing, and then somebody else telling you something totally different. You don't know what the heck to believe. It's awful. And as far as, what you said about how things are coming out, I'm doing legislation that would prevent the Biden administration from banning gas stoves. Good. I mean, they said, and all these liberal fact checkers said, oh, he's not banning gas stoves. Baloney. The rule that he has in place, proposed rule, would ban 96% of all gas stoves. And they keep lying. They just lie to us.
That you make a good point, too, Congresswoman Lesko, when you talk about these fact checkers. You can't rely on them anymore. The only real fact checkers are the Republican Party at this point.
Yeah, these fact checkers are funded by liberal groups and liberal organizations. And when you think of it, they're very clever. The Democrats are very clever. And the liberals, they fund all these so-called fact checkers that then conveniently, the facts are on the liberal side, and they say we're the crazy people. Give me a break.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are not.
Right.
It's coming out that what we've said is true all along.
And also, the other set of hearings that I thought were really telling, I have to say, were the hearings on the weaponization of the Department of Justice and the censorship that was imposed on social media. I thought that was a hugely telling hearing last week. Showing that the Democrats weren't reading anything we were saying. They weren't. They were just totally ignoring our complaint. It was all a very big surprise to them.
Yeah, and that's the problem. A lot of times we talk past each other. Even in our committee hearings when we're all in the same room, it's like the staff. So often, I think the Congress member staffs write up these little speeches, and they just read the speeches. You can tell that they're just reading speeches. So they say their speech, we say our speech, and nobody's listening.
I know.
It's just sad.
I know, but you know what? They also show how dumb they are sometimes. There was the congresswoman from Texas, I'm blanking on her name, perhaps you remember, who didn't know who Barry Weiss was in this hearing about social media being censored over at Twitter. And when she said that, that means she didn't read this very laborious reporting by a former New York Times and Wall Street Journal journalist who had detailed all of this in excruciating detail. And she didn't even know who she was. I mean, they have no idea how stupid they sound when they broadcast these things.
Well,
did I lose the line? What happened there?
To have a field hearing, and not one Democrat showed up. They said, we're not going to participate, which is terrible because what's going on down at the border is a catastrophe for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent. It's a humanitarian crisis. It's a national security crisis, and I don't know how they can keep ignoring this.
I guess they keep ignoring it because they don't want it to be a story. Do you get Democrats calling, writing, or showing up, writing to you or showing up, Debbie, occasionally here and there that are living in border areas that say, my party's just lost it on this, they're just out of touch? Do you hear from Democrats on this from time to time?
Well, I do from time to time. In fact, last night I was at an American Legion event. Yesterday was the 104th birthday of the American Legion.
Right.
And I had a gentleman that was a member who's a Democrat, and when I was talking about the border issues and different issues, he's like, I'm a Democrat, but I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
So that's good to hear. Yeah. I mean, I do have people that cross over. I know I do when there's voting that are Democrats that just see what I do and how I'm trying to help people, and they vote for me.
Debbie, I wanted to put a little bit of light on something that isn't getting enough attention. I'm glad you're doing it. Your reintroduction of the Women's Bill of Rights. I was looking at an article on something earlier in the show, in the previous hour, and a clever columnist said the next time a liberal asks you to define woke, ask them to define what a man is or what a woman is. And when they won't, when they can't, tell them that's your definition of woke. There's your definition of woke. You've reintroduced the Women's Bill of Rights. Tell us about this, Debbie.
Yeah, I can't believe we actually have to propose this legislation. Right. But when you have, someone who's a Supreme Court justice saying she can't define what a woman is, I guess it's timely to define what a woman is.
Yeah.
So my Women's Bill of Rights defines what a woman is, defines what a man is, for federal law purposes. And because women and girls are being discriminated. They are. Now you have boys and men's and girls and women's sports. Mm-hmm. So no longer do you have male sports and women's sports. You have male sports and co-ed sports. Mm-hmm. This is not fair to the woman. You have women that are men who are in women's locker rooms. So women don't have a safe space anymore. You have men identifying as women in women prisons getting women pregnant. I mean, this is insanity. And so I think it's about time we put a stake in the ground and say, listen, this is what a woman is. This is what a man is. So we can define that in federal law and protect women's rights and protect women's privacy.
This should have been something liberals would have been behind. They were at the forefront of fighting for women's rights in the previous decades. And it becomes kind of an interesting and difficult question on how we're even ever going to enforce, sexual discrimination or civil rights laws if the noun woman is meaningless.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's why this is important. It's important to define what it is in federal law. Because for goodness sakes, even our U.S. Supreme Court justice, one of them doesn't even know what the heck a woman is.
It'll be interesting.
I mean, this is ridiculous. And then, people saying that men can have babies and, it's just, I feel it's insanity. The world has gone insane.
Yeah, I mean, this is why we need legislation. We used to have dictionaries. There's about 170,000 nouns in the dictionary, I think. We're gonna have to write about 170,000 1,000 pieces of legislation to restore the original meaning of these nouns. Debbie, you're great. I love it when you're busy, and so I'm not going to keep you too much longer. But thank you so much for everything you do on behalf of the 8th District and Arizona and the rest of the nation. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Seth. You too.
Good catching up. I'm Seth Leibsohn. We'll be right back.